Welcome to PaRANTing.
Hi, everybody.
It's a podcast about kids. But kids shouldn't listen. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the PaRANTing Podcast, episode 35. Another week. We showed up. Mostly, like physically we're here, mentally it's questionable, who knows. Thank you for coming back, or welcome to the podcast as if it's your first time here. Thank you for joining us, and if you're joining us live on Twitch, hello, live, and if you are listening / watching on the YouTube, hello, not live. I am Katie G in Tantallon, Nova Scotia. I am joined by my lovely cousin, the Mark Adam, over in Winnipeg, Manitoba, also the creator of our okay-ish new fancy website, parentingpodcast.com. Go check it out. You can buy merch. You can listen or watch our latest episodes. There's like other things, and we're going to have more stuff kind of coming up on there. But welcome back to the podcast for another episode of yet again another shit show.
And just throwing it out there, we do have somebody in our Twitch chat right now, just being great, helping us out, catching some mistakes we're making right off the get.
Thank you.
So Danger Zero, we appreciate you so much. Thank you. And I want to go back and point out that they started with this dope, deep question, which was, I wonder how many times we forgive someone just because we don't want to lose them. And I just think that that's a great thing to ponder just in general. So thank you very much for being with us live. It's great to have somebody in the chat. And we do this Thursdays at 5 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Atlantic. For those in the Eastern time zone, you can be 6 o'clock. So I'll do the math for you, because generally everything's this time in Eastern time. So I don't want you to get confused. So 6 o'clock Eastern, but we do this every Thursday for the most part. There was that 1 week we skipped because it was March break. But
and I was also sick one time, and we had to do it on a Friday. It's fine.
But we love doing this. We love chatting about our kids, even though most of it is just ranting about them. But it still counts. It still counts. So quickly, social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Follow us on all of those. And obviously, if you're watching live, there's the Twitch channel as well. So twitch.tv/PaRANTing. And yeah, if you'll notice, they're all different things. So thanks for the follow, Danger. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So welcome to the family. And go ahead and follow. The big thing is to like
family, to be clear.
Yeah, but the big thing for us is to follow on our YouTube page. We really need subscribers on the YouTube page because it's until we have enough subscribers on there, we can't like have our own username. It's like youtube.com/channel/ and then this big long like
bunch of like
NASA level password. So
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. You're going to want to follow us on there and like, subscribe, do all that stuff on the YouTube. We would greatly appreciate that. We don't expect money, but if it just takes you a second to click that button, what a difference it makes to us. Not a big deal to you guys, I'm sure. But let's talk about our kids. Let's get them drunk. Or wait, no, let's not get them drunk. Wait, what? I'm going to let you take it from here for a second there.
Oh, well, speaking of a beverage, let me just take a little sip here.
And I'm drinking Mio.
Lame.
Well, listen, lame-o. It's earlier here than it is there.
It is fair. I literally I don't even know what time. I genuinely don't even know what time it is. Like it's been have so many buttons
to deal with. I got all of this, if you can see, I got this whole Stream Deck thing here. I got like all this thing. I just like being drunk for this part is just not an option.
I totally listen. That's why you're in charge of all of that, because I could not be responsible for that, nor would I want to be. I show up. Sometimes my video and audio works, sometimes it doesn't. That's what you're getting on this end of it.
And then sometimes people like Danger Zero, they are here to save us from ourselves.
Yes, honestly, thank you. Like, it's funny because it's fun. It's really cool to kind of do this live, but then it kind of catches some mishaps early on. So that's very much appreciated.
Super helpful.
Yeah. Anyway,
great,
I will get to anyway, we were talking, if you didn't listen to our episode last week, go check it out. But last week we were talking about kind of towards the end, we kind of got on, we always get off topic because that's just how we roll. We get on to like random things.
Being
and go down
on
a rabbit
topic
hole.
Is off brand.
Yeah, exactly. So the topic kind of came up about, buying, when your kids are a certain age, generally a teenager, buying them alcohol or allowing them to have alcohol in the house or whatever. Obviously it comes with, there's a lot of things that go along with that. It's not just like, here's the beer fridge and help yourself, like, or let me go buy you whatever at the liquor store. But, one thing I was going to bring up from last week and in my experience was like, I think, I have like two, like, I don't know. I'm a little back and forth on it. And like, I had checked on some things in the past week about, there's like articles and like, there are a lot of people who are really against, allowing your kids to experiment, for lack of a better word, with alcohol at as a teenager. But my thought process on it is that, first of all, if they're going to have alcohol, at some point they will, or some won't at all. They have no interest in it. But if they show an interest in it, there's a conversation that's had about, how it affects you. It affects everyone differently. And different alcohols will affect you differently. So there's like those conversations that need to be had. But I think that for, the experimenting part of it, if they were going to, I would rather them do it in my house than out somewhere at a party or not knowing, like at someone's house that maybe I don't know, because especially when the girls, like, they've been getting older and as they're teenagers, there's these friends, they're like, I'm going over to so-and-so's. Like, I've never heard that person ever. Like, oh no, they're just someone, they're like someone from soccer this year or something. I don't know. So it's like, I would rather them do it in my house. Like, I feel better. Like, I'm here for you if you need anything. You need to kind of learn where you're at, because especially we have one that's, going to university in the fall. Alcohol is going to be had.
That's so crazy.
I know.
That is so crazy.
I know. So it's like, I would rather her know where those limits are for herself, or know what
and
she
to
likes.
learn them in like a loving, welcoming, like safe environment, as opposed to like at a party where she gets really drunk for the first time ever, doesn't know what that means.
Sounds horrible
until
to me. Yeah, like that to me is
it's
worse.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think, and that was one of the big things too that was talked about, is that if you are having drinks, then excuse me, surround yourself with people that you trust. That was a big thing too, right? So it's like having people around you that that you can trust if inevitably it's going to go too far. We were all teenagers. Even as adults, we can
looks like Danger Zero
far.
agrees in the chat. Threw in So.
Yeah. So like, teenagers are dumb. Like, we all do stupid stuff. And even as adults, we do stupid shit. We just have to be responsible for it. You know what I mean? We pay the consequences for sure. But yeah, like, I would so much rather I would rather know, or rather them try stuff here in my house / we co-parent. So, the girls are at our house for a week and then over at their mom's for a week. So that is a challenge, I think, too. You really have to be very communicative with the other parents and, how they feel about it. So there's a lot that goes with it. It's not just like, I find some of the articles,
it's not
like
black
I said,
and white,
they run,
do it or don't, right?
Yeah. Well, some of the articles I read were like, oh, don't do it because blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, like, I don't know. There was,
if they're not doing it with you and they don't feel safe to do it with you, they'll do it in secret, and that is generally more dangerous I mean, I'm from the East Coast where drinking is like the culture, as you know, being from the East Coast. So but here it's so funny because like I moved to Manitoba and the drinking age is 18 instead of the 19 that it is in Nova Scotia.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Quebec and Manitoba both have 18 as their drinking age.
Oh, I knew Quebec for sure. Because
potentially Alberta?
Okay.
Alberta
I had no
maybe
idea.
too? But then, when you go to the States, it's 21, which is
Right.
crazy,
Right.
right? You can be drafted into the army, but not have a beer. It's crazy. You can vote for who's going to run your country, but you can't have a rum and Coke. Like, it's nuts in the States. But like, how do you learn then? How do you
Yeah,
learn?
I think it's just kind of like what we're talking about. It's kids who are, if you grow up in a household where the adults, in quotes, I use that term very loosely,
Yeah.
but if you grow up in a household where your parents or step parents drink, then you're kind of exposed to it. Obviously, there could be variations of that. I'm just speaking from a very generalized portion of it. Of like, yeah, we have some drinks on the weekends. Through the weeknights. Sometimes, when you have like a really stressful day, like me right now with my little beverage on a Thursday. But yeah, like I think if they're more exposed to it, they're probably more apt to be interested in trying it. Whereas if you didn't have it in your house, but there's another side to that too. If they go to school with friends and you go to their places and then they drink, then they're going to be exposed to it at some point. Like, there are enough people in this world, especially in the Maritimes where I'm from, you're bound to stumble upon a drinker or two. So, I
Yeah.
think, they're going to be exposed to it. And I think it's, yeah, like it's going to be something they're going to be interested in at least trying. They could just hate it. And then you'd be like, cool, I don't have to buy you any, or you don't have to steal my beverages.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
expensive.
it's expensive. But yeah, it's the thing too is like, if they feel safe talking to you about it, if they feel safe, like asking you to have that, like have like a couple of friends over and have some drinks.
Hmm.
I mean, the trick there is like, are those other parents comfortable with it?
Exactly what I was thinking the
So
exact
like
same thing.
there's so many complicating factors to it.
Yeah.
It isn't just like, well, it's okay if they do it in my house, invite all your friends. Cause like those, and especially like I live in Winnipeg, and when I moved from Nova Scotia to Winnipeg, it was crazy to me how much more religious the culture is here. And I say culture very loosely in Winnipeg because it's very much borrowed from a little bit of everywhere. And so it's like a hodgepodge, hot pot, melting pot of things. And so there's so many different opinions and so many different outlooks on this whole thing that it's hard to like get a handle on who thinks what for real,
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, with me, my kids are 7 and 9.
Yeah,
My
they're quite a
7 year,
ways from there.
but also like then there's even more complication because like one of my kids isn't my biological kid, it's my partner's kid who is I've adopted as my kid,
Yeah.
but the other kid I share 50-50 with a very Catholic mother,
Right. Right.
right?
Hmm.
So
The
like
rules would probably be pretty different in households.
exactly. And my youngest mother like barely drinks, and if I don't even know if she drinks at all. She's pregnant now again, but like she's currently not drinking. But like when she's not pregnant, I don't know if she drinks or not. I don't know. I mean, she might have given it up altogether, right? Which is totally a regular thing that people do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will never do that. That's not a me thing, but I would never begrudge someone else their ability to
Yeah.
drink or choose not to drink or whatever. Like,
No, never. It's
that's
just like, well, kind of in the perspective that we're talking about it, it's kind of navigating that inevitable point in
mhm,
time where it's, there's different rules in the different households. So it's, and then that's where some of the conflict can come in, right? Fortunately,
mhm,
we're in a situation where, it's pretty, I would say it's pretty amicable and it's pretty similar. I wouldn't say it's the same level. It's pretty similar. Obviously, it's a different dynamic in each household, which is to be expected. But there is that generalization of, we kind of have the same thoughts about having a drink at home with us, kind of thing. If they're interested in trying it, stuff like that. So I think it's tough to navigate when you don't have that, amicable relationship with the co-parent, and it can get a little messy if you're dealing with that extra thing.
Well, here's the other side of it too, is that, I was in the food and beverage industry for 2 decades plus, and I have had a lot of experience where working in a bar, a bunch of kids will come in and you can tell they're brand spanking new because they have no idea. They'll walk up to the bar and do stuff like they'll go, "Can I have a beer?" And you're just like, "Can I see your ID?" Like that's their first, beer. Can I have a beer?
I found
that's what people in movies do.
Yeah.
Because they're trying not to like give out brands. I'll take a lager. Well, what kind of fucking lager? Like,
there's so
do you even know what a lager is?
If you're from the Maritimes, it would probably be like an Olin's or a Keith's. It's usually the first beer, or a Blue.
Those are
like the big ones.
Yeah. One in every like 4 beers sold in Nova Scotia is a Keith's.
Oh, I believe it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, even to this day, I call it swamp water. It's disgusting to me personally.
I love it. I drink it here all the time.
Not for me.
It reminds me of home. But I also used to work for Keith's, so that's a whole other thing.
Well,
that
is fair.
But it's just so funny that these kids come in, they have no idea what's going on, and forgetting the argument about they don't know how to tip yet, and they don't know how to like be respectful and behave, and like there's all that stuff. But then they also don't know what they're, like you said earlier, like limits, knowing your limits. Where do you learn that? Because these like 19-year-old kids come out. And they're showing up at the pub for the first time ever, and they're just like, "Can I have a beer?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, your night is going to be rough, bud, because your tomorrow is going to suck." Because if you don't even know how to order a beer, chances are you're not that experienced in drinking them. So,
or you haven't been able to drink them out in public yet. Like, you know what I mean? It would just be you drank whatever was at home, so you're like, I don't know. I did find, because I also worked in the industry for quite a long time, and it was, you either get either spectrum when it came. I know we're getting off topic. This is just how we roll.
But we're not. But
Okay. Anyway, we're kind of talking about like being out in public, but like, it was kind of funny because it was either way. It was, I would either get the very eager, I'm 19 now, here's my ID, couldn't wait to show it to me, or you would get the, ugh. And they would give you their ID, and you're like, you literally turned 19 2 weeks ago. Like, relax.
Yeah, like
it was either one of those.
Are you? Yeah, that used to frustrate the shit out of me. And okay, so I understand now why you're saying you're getting off topic.
What I was going to say.
Like,
yeah, sorry.
But like learning how to behave in public when drinking is a big thing. It's a skill that not everybody masters, even with practice. I know 30-year-olds who I won't go drinking with because they're fucking morons when they're drunk. Oh, I had a big hiccupy thing there.
Oh no.
I was chugging my Mio.
I'll chug some of this. There you go.
Speaking of drinking, but it's funny because like my girls, like when we go to the dollar store, they have those like really crappy like daiquiri mixes and stuff that you just mix with ice and like throw a little booze in.
Our girls loved that. Yeah.
Those are so fun.
Yeah.
Right. And my girls love them.
Yeah. You just blend it up with some ice.
But they ask me, can we have a virgin daiquiri? And I'm like I got them trained to say virgin already. Like,
yeah.
Can we have, because, but when they were first asking, I was like, can we have some of that only without the adult stuff?
Yeah.
Like that's,
yeah, exactly. Without that, whatever that is, that gross stuff that you put in it, don't put that in there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, we don't want that being a thing. So, but I just think it's funny because like they know that this is for adults, and when I'm an adult, I can do that. And when they get closer to adulthood, aka, the older teens as you are dealing with, then that conversation can be had about like having a little bit at home. Having that conversation with your kids is important.
Yeah, and I think that the main, like when you really think about it, you can never fully prepare your kids for literally anything. Like, you know what I mean? You can get them so far, and then there's just some things they have to learn on their own. And then, sometimes we continue to learn those things on our own as, in quotes, adults.
Sometimes we continue to fail to learn those things.
Exactly. Sometimes we're like, I'm never drinking again. And then the next morning someone opens a Caesar and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm on board. Let's get this train going again. So,
right?
It's I know what you mean when you say, going out and drinking, and people, teenagers are idiots, especially in larger groups. Sometimes it's like, even I went out on a bachelorette like last summer, and it was like, I feel like I'm at the point now, like I'm at the age where like I'm almost 35, like I can say no. But
Yeah.
some of my friends that I was out with were still, they're still like they're 20, like mid 20, kind of creeping up to 30, but I'm like definitely the older one of the group, and I was kind of more,
But I mean,
anyway, but there's definitely that happens. Like trays of shots were coming over to the table, and I'm like, no, I want
and
no
that's
part
it.
of this.
I have no problem now.
Mm-hmm.
For the last decade, I've had no problem being like, no. They're like, but we're gonna do these shots. I'm like, no. And then you get your, those idiot friends that are like, pussy, and they start like, I'm like, I don't. You call me every name you want. I'm not doing the shot.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
But when you're younger, you're so influenced by that. Well, not everyone, but you can be so influenced by that. You want to just like, I don't want to be the downer, so I'll just kind of go along with this, I guess, right?
How much trouble have I gotten into because I'm like, well, I don't want to disappoint my friends, and
Well, you know what?
Jesus.
That's what happened to me when I was going out drinking with you for like the first time we like really went out to drink, and I was like, I can keep up with Adam. It's no problem.
Bad idea.
It's a horrible idea. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. I don't know which one. Anyway, we won't get into it, but it was just a really bad idea on my part, because I was like, I can totally do this. He's my big cousin. I'm going to impress him with my drinking skills, and then proceeded to.
But you were very young then too. That was like 10 years ago.
That was more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was like 15 years ago.
Yeah. So you were like new to the drinking game.
Yeah.
And
I remember, the picture, I will share it on our social media, but I have a picture, or maybe I have already. I'll find out. Anyway, I came to the Oasis when you were working at the Oasis for my 21st birthday.
Oh, and that picture of you hugging me?
Yeah. And you like looking miserable. Yeah. It was great. You look like you hated me and was like, who is this person? And it's like, no, he actually does love me. We are cousins. The picture, it doesn't come across like that.
Yeah. It was super fun. But that kind of like, when I remember how stupid I was when I was younger, it makes me really want to teach my kids how not to be dumb. I would very much hope that they would learn from my mistakes instead of making their own all the time. But when it comes to alcohol and drugs and things like that, I really, really hope they don't make mistakes that I have made in the past. And I want them to feel free to do whatever they want to do, and I will love them and support them. Right. But there are some mistakes I made that I realized if someone had just sat me down and explained a couple of things to me, I could have avoided a lot of heartache, heartburn, like just general nausea,
Yep.
I would have needed so much less Pepto-Bismol in my life if I had just like sat down and learned some lessons from like my parents or uncles or whatever. And how I didn't learn my lessons from watching like people like Uncle Doug, like for those that don't know, he gets into his cups. He's one of those like guys, like he's very much like me when he gets drunk. Like he's louder, but he's like a jolly drunk.
Oh yeah. Like a very happy drunk, very
super, but like he's drunk a lot.
Yeah. But it's just kind of like, this is just how he is. So when you don't see him drinking, you're like, are you okay? Like, are you feeling okay?
Yeah. And so, and like, I feel like that. I feel good about like being that kind of a drunk.
Yeah.
But I lucked out. Not everybody is that. Not every, like, I have friends that like, I have a buddy whose wife will not let, like, if he drinks rye, she will literally leave him.
Yeah. There are some people who just can't handle certain alcohol.
But like, the guy can drink beer all night and he's the life of the party. He drinks a couple of rye and he's an absolute twat nozzle. And hey, that like, but that happens, right? And but you don't know until you learn
until
that.
Until you try it, right? Like that's
And so in conversation with our children, these are things that are important to know. It's like, listen, you might like vodka, but it might not like you.
Right.
So it's really hard to like put a label on like, don't let your kids drink or do let your kids drink. and be okay on either side of that argument. It's hard to like
You can't
lock
just
in
be,
an argument for
yeah,
that.
I agree. You can't just, it's just not like a yes or no. And it's usually sometimes it's a no, if it's a hard no in your house, you're going to go do it somewhere else.
Right. Well, because that's the thing. If your kids want to drink and you say no, that doesn't mean they're not going to drink. It means they're not going to drink in front of you. They're
Yeah.
going to make sure that you don't know they are drinking. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean they're not drinking. I'm going to ask you this and then I'll tell a story. When was the first time your parents saw you and or caught you drinking?
Well, I wasn't a drinker. This is the thing. I wasn't like a drinker through high school because I was the one that was driving my friends to like parties and stuff, but I wasn't like a drinker. But I remember the first time I had alcohol was at with my dad. Well, if we go way back, it was like my 8th birthday and I had a sip of beer. I don't count that, but because I thought it was disgusting and I ran away. But I did, I don't know if you remember you would remember the Canadian coolers in the 2-liter bottles. Do you remember the Canadian cooler, Kiwi something or other? I don't know what it was.
No.
That was my first.
I don't like where this story is going.
It's like, well, no, just dad had that at his apartment. I remember going to visit him in his apartment and he had that there and he was like, oh, I just thought maybe you might want to try it. I don't honestly remember how old I was. But I tried it and I was like, yeah, because it's kind of sweet, but you know, I was just like, I don't know. Like I wasn't the kid that like would be caught drinking. Like I honestly, the first time I think I came home after like drinking alcohol was when I was already out of high school. Like I was already 19 and I was doing stupid things at that point.
So
I mean? I was like,
but that's legal age. Your parents have fucking no say at that
that's
point.
what I mean. Like it wasn't me. I never like snuck alcohol or anything like that. Like I just wasn't a thing for me, but I made up for it between 19 and 22. I will tell you, I made up for all the stupid stuff. So I kind of just did that later, I guess, in life.
Yeah, it'll catch up to you if you don't, get a handle on that early.
Yeah.
But okay, so my dad.
I do.
Most people that are listening to this probably don't, but I will tell you, he is a lot more strict than, say, our Uncle Doug, your dad, my Uncle Tim.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's a lot more rigid when it comes to those types of things. And it didn't help that my sister, all through fucking junior high and high school, used to get caught doing drugs and being stupid. And so, like,
You
when
just
I would
assumed
misbehave,
that you were doing it.
well, when I would misbehave, that was the assumption, was like I was doing drugs or I was drinking or this and that and the other thing. And I fucking wasn't. I was just an asshole. Like I was a teenager and I was just an asshole. Like it wasn't drug related at all. I didn't start doing drugs until after I got kicked out of my house, which mostly was because my dad thought I was on drugs, I'm pretty sure. So like
you made me do this.
Well, it's like, well, if they already think I'm doing it, what's the fucking... Anyway, and then even then, I didn't... I'm like, weed... It just... I'm way more into weed now than I was ever in my 20s.
Right.
Like, every time I would smoke a joint in my 20s, oh, man, I'm fucking straight to sleep. Like, it was just no fun. I was, oh, man, this feels so good. Never mind, I got a nap. Done.
Yeah.
I'm out.
That's why I never was interested in trying it, because that's the only thing I ever experienced watching my friends do it. And I was like, that does not look like a fun time. I'm good.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
But it just was one of those things. So the first time, because when I got kicked out of my house, I was like 17. And so I lived with Nan for a bit. I moved with some friends, and like there was a whole thing. But I would go to the pub after work with some friends at 17 years old, had a full beard. So I'd go to the pub. I'm going to call them out, Dave Doolittle's in Dartmouth. Because I worked at the Dairy Queen right on Main Street in Dartmouth. So right behind there was this pub called Dave Doolittle's, and they had pool tables and whatnot, and they had karaoke and all the shit. So we used to go there and just have some drinks responsibly. Like, we never got fucked up. We never got stupid, whatever. But we used to just have some beers, and because they had cheap pitchers. So we go $10 pitchers. We'd all throw $30 on the table, and that was our night.
Oh, we'll drink.
Yeah. So one day I'm in there after work with a bunch of my buddies from work, and drinking some beer, whatever, 17 years old, whatever. And It's funny because one time, as a side note, but one of my buddies got carded, and
Oh yeah.
they were like, "Oh shit!" And I'm like looking for my thing, and the guy looks at me and goes, "No, you're good, you're good," because I was in there all the time. So he's like, "No, you're good. Like we know you.
You
No
have a
big deal."
beard. You're fine.
Whatever. So then, but then they kicked my buddy out because he didn't have his ID because he was 17. So
Right.
anyway, so one day we're in there, we're drinking, whatever, and I'm drinking. I put my beer down and I look up, and there's my mom and my dad standing right there. They were at Dave Doolittle's for dinner, and I'm just like,
Wow,
hi.
what great timing. What great timing is that?
And anyway, so then my mom's like, "How you doing?" Because I hadn't seen them in a while because I didn't live with them.
Yeah.
Because this was after I'd been kicked out and da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
So, and da 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 holds so much weight in this story, but I'm gonna skip
yes.
it all because it's not important to this particular story.
Particular story, yeah.
Right. So the da 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 da, very very heavy weight on that da 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 da. But then my mom was just like, "Enjoy the rest of your evening," and then they just left, and I was just like, but I was like sweating buckets all of a sudden, I at no point, even the first couple of times I went into that place, like hoping they wouldn't, they would serve me. Never did I get like nervous or worried or like whatever. Like
that your parents would be there, or just that, they would card you.
They were going to serve me. Like I wasn't nervous about getting caught, whatever. But when I looked up and I saw both of my parents, and they weren't just like across the room. I didn't see them until they were literally standing where I could reach out and touch them like this. Like, and I was like, that's how close they were. And I was like, because it was what made me look up was how close they got to me. And I was like, who is this person? And I look up and it's my fucking parents.
It's like, oh shit.
Yeah. So I don't know. My mom might have more details to that story because I proceeded to get rather intoxicated that night.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get that out of there.
Experience out of your head. Yeah, that's fair.
Oof. Let me tell you. Oof.
Oh, man. See, I don't have anything good like that. I was pretty boring as a teenager.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
And it was, that was like a whole thing. It was a whole thing. So that was the moment that my parents were like, he's drinking. And, I'd been at parties and stuff, and my mom would be like, here, have a mouthful of beer here and there, whatever. Like, it wasn't like I had never had a sip of alcohol ever in front of them ever, but I had never had my own alcoholic beverage in front of them. And like, they didn't walk over to me until we were into our second pitcher. So like,
right.
I was feeling it. I was at 17 years old. I was about a $160 maybe. I weighed like around 160, 170 pounds. And that was it. That was, now I'm carrying 250, working on 260, got to get to the gym, but let's not talk about that.
No, you're making it as a goal, working on that 260. I like that number better.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Exactly.
Right.
So, oh man, that was a moment for me where I was just like, oh shit, the reality of my parents knowing I'm doing the thing that they hadn't. But again, I didn't live at home. So like there was this weird disconnect for me. My situation, everyone's story is different is the thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. One thing I will say, like one of the reasons why, what we were talking about is not only just allowing your kids to have, booze in the house, but then also purchasing booze for them. So that was a thing. The one story I do have that I thought of is that what I want our kids to avoid is the situation that happened to me. So I wasn't the drinker of the group, but there was friends of mine that were having a party. The older brother was purchasing alcohol for some of the people. So they thought it was a great idea to have all of the people who were wanting the alcohol to be in the vehicle. So there was 4 of us young teenagers and this one older teenager who was purchasing the booze. We pull up to the liquor store. He has a list of the most random fucking shit and proceeds to buy it all. Of course we get pulled over. They called the cops immediately. And I'm just sitting there because like I didn't really know what was going on because I'm like, whatever. Like I didn't know any different, really. Honestly, at the time, I was like, I don't know, whatever. Like, this is fine. We're just going.
Oof.
We literally were going around the corner to the house. Like, the liquor store was around the corner from where we were going, and so we got pulled over. All of the booze was in the back, and I was petrified. I was like, oh my God, I'm in so much fucking trouble. Because like I wasn't the one drinking, but I knew that if my parents found out, they'd be like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
what are
Guilty
you
by
doing?
association, right?
Exactly. And obviously, if
Yeah.
that happened to like our kids, I would assume the same thing. I'd be like, yeah, okay, sure. But it was just like that moment. That was something I was like, I never want that. I would rather go get it for you rather than you having to go to like an older brother of a friend or older sister of a friend or whatever. Like that situation was so horrible, and like I will never forget it. And
Yeah.
at least the cops were actually pretty nice to us, I think, because we were a small town, right? So they like, I'm sure, knew 3 out of the 5 of us. So
Yeah. Like when the
it was
cop pulls
more-
up and they're like, I'm calling your parents.
Yeah,
They have
exactly.
they have them in their cell phone. Oh,
Yeah,
at
they're
that
like,
time,
"Hey,
at
Matt,
that time there
so-"
probably wasn't cell phones.
No, we had no cell phones.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Anyway, that's like one of the situations I would rather them not have to go through. You know what I mean? So
I have a very scary story that happened very similar to that. A buddy of mine, whom you know, but I will not name,
okay.
because I didn't get permission to tell his side of the story. But we went to this party at this campground, Shuby. And again, for people in Nova Scotia, you know the Shuby campground.
Mm-hmm.
But so we went to this campground, Shubenacadie campground, and it was this drinking party, and we got there, and me and my buddy Matt, I know so many Matts that's fine. So this particular Matt,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran out of beer. And so this guy's like, I'm making a liquor run. Who wants anything? And we're like, well, we do. And so we were like, we'll come with you, I guess. So then this guy gets behind the wheel, and we're like, I've never been so scared as a passenger in a vehicle in my entire life.
Was this person like obviously intoxicated that was going through
Hammered.
this run? Oh, okay.
Fucking hammered to the point
Okay.
where we got to the liquor store. He got out,
Mm-hmm.
right? They wouldn't let him in the liquor store.
That's how intoxicated he was. But they're
He
like,
was
no,
so
you can't
drunk.
come in here, so go back in your car.
Yeah. So because we ended up at Tacoma liquor store, the NSLC there.
Okay.
For those, I'm just saying that for those that know that area.
Mm-hmm.
So it was absolute insanity. And then we're driving back, and the guy's got his window cracked like this much, like it was like 2 inches maybe. So his window's just cracked. It's not down, but he's smoking a cigarette.
Oh God.
No, his buddy in the passenger seat was smoking the cigarette. My bad. But he went to flick the cigarette out the window, and it hit the window and came back, hit me in the face, and landed in my lap on fire still. And I'm like, like, and I'm freaking out. And the guy driving's like, what's the matter? And he's like swerving, and I'm like, oh Jesus, don't kill us.
Just
And
watch
like,
the road, please. I'm
yeah.
fine.
And I'm like, this cigarette's it went out the window, man. I'm like, no, it's like I'm on fire. And he swear the
Well,
guy
my
kept
pants says
swearing.
otherwise.
He kept swearing it went out the window, and I'm like, what the fuck is on fire in my crotch then, you asshole? So, and what's crazy is I have no idea who those people were. We just got into a car with 2 hammered strangers, drove to the liquor store, and never end up getting booze. And then after that, I had no desire to party. I just wanted to go home.
Oh,
Like
that
that-
would
it
be
was-
like, that's a sobering moment right there.
It sure was.
Yeah.
Danger is saying goodbye, but they're leaving us with a couple of nice quips here. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
They said the 2 most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why, which is dope. Thank you for hanging out with us. Danger says thank you for thanks for letting me spend time in your stream, and thanks for the wonderful talk show. Well, thank you for saying those. Your kind
thank you
words
so
go a long way.
much.
We appreciate that. And for those listening
Have a
that
good time
aren't
at work,
Danger,
by the way.
join us next time. Yeah, have fun at
Yeah.
work. We'll see you next week, Thursday again.
Yep.
Don't be a stranger, Danger.
Ha 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 ha. So funny. Thank you so much for joining us. That's awesome. Really appreciate the engagement. So
Yeah,
have
right
fun
on.
at work.
Awesome.
Although sorry, you have to go to work. I don't know, maybe not have fun. If you love a job, then yay.
Right? Yeah.
Whatever.
I like my job, so I'd be happy to go to work. But speaking of which, I'm sitting in my chair. I'm at work. So
We're at work right now.
yeah. So it was just a harrowing experience. But also like there's a whole bunch of things going through my head when I think about that story. Is one, how times are different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That whole joke of like, when I was a kid, they preached never get in a car with a stranger ever. And now you could just use the internet to call strangers up to take you wherever you want to go.
And you pay them for it.
Yeah, and you give them money. So like it's just we live in a different time.
Yeah.
You know, where we used to leave the house and come back when the street lights came on. And now your kids don't leave your fucking eyesight when they are outside. Like my partner has a hard time with the kids in the front yard with the gate closed when we can't see them.
Yeah, I get that. Especially when they're younger, it's like and it's all like situational too, like where you're living and how safe you feel there. So there's a lot of different factors that go into that. But I totally understand.
Yeah, growing up on a military base, as I did, a bunch of them, and as you did for a bunch, like it's a totally different experience too from living in like the suburbs, or like where I live here in Winnipeg. I live in the West End, and not like the nice part of the West End. If you want to get like, for people who are in Winnipeg, they'll know when I say like Ellis and Maryland, like that area, that's the neighborhood I live in. That's not the greatest neighborhood.
Right.
So they'll know what I mean.
Hence the, not feeling comfortable with the kids being outside alone.
Right. There's so many layers to this whole, do you let your kids drink? Do you buy booze for your kids?
Yeah.
Do you facilitate that learning experience? Or are you a parent that is super against it? Like there's levels of it that I just don't know from it on a day-to-day basis. I can change my mind because my kids are 7 and 9. I want to say a decade away from that, but it's not a decade away. It's, probably 5-6 years away, when my 9-year-old hits 14, 15, that conversation starts to happen.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. As long as there's an open conversation though, I think that you really, that's the first step. Like, and then it's just as you as an individual / parent, then you decide what you want for your household. And like, that there's no right or wrong. It's just there are different situations or outcomes to those choices, just like anything else in life, right? So it's, if you choose to not want to have it at all in your house, then there's the potential of the, sneaking behind the back. And then if you have it, a little too much, like there's always the extreme to everything, right? So it's just finding that balance for your family, for your kids, like what you're comfortable with. And, that's kind of been our, I guess it's just been our experience with it, is that yes, have it here, you kind of see your limits. And then yes, I've purchased alcohol before knowing exactly where they were going to be. And that was the big thing. It's like, if I find out that you weren't exactly where you were supposed to be, that is the end. Never again. So there's rules that go with it. It's not just like, I'll just go buy you booze all the time, but I would rather them feel comfortable coming to us, to ask, or to, sometimes when we're, here on a weekend and, we've got, either hockey or whatever on, and we're having a couple of drinks, and then they'd be like, hey, can I have one of your seltzers? Like, can I try one? Because I always buy like these, like, mango something hard seltzers or something. It's something that they would actually want to try. So the only downside to that is I lose some of my booze that way. It gets expensive for me. But I'm like, wait, where'd all my seltzers go?
But it could be a lot more expensive if you have to bail them out of jail. Do you know what I mean? Like there's varying degrees of like how, like, what is the like you got to know your kids. Like, if I give my kids this leeway,
100%.
Are they going to go behind my back and like take advantage of me and take the like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If you know your kids though, like we have two teenage girls. They are not remotely the same. And there's probably one that I would rather like that I would more trust in those situations. You know what I mean? Like you just know your kids, so there's just certain things that's why I find it can be hard as a parent, because sometimes the same rules don't apply to each child if you have multiple, because they can be so different. And it's like, yeah, I trust this one because she's proven that she's more responsible. So that's why we're giving, as much rope as they're willing to hang themselves with, and then you yank it back, right? But it's like, for you, thing. I already have the noose around your neck, and I know.
Yeah, so just waiting.
Yeah, so it's very, like, that's the hard part about it, too, is you're trying to be fair, but...
Well, like, yeah. I'll put it to you this way. One of my children, I'm not going to say which, because I don't think that's fair, but they asked me, like, we have the Chips Ahoy cookies, like that package. Mm-hmm. And one day they said, can I have a couple of cookies? I said, yes, you can have 2 cookies, but they're your mom's. Don't eat them all. So the next morning I wake up, 0 cookies. They're all eaten.
Oh,
all of them.
No.
It's like, why? Oh, no. Did you eat them all? Yes. How many did it tell you could have? 2. How many did you eat? All of them. So like,
oh no. Like,
so sometimes you give them like, okay, I would love to give you this leeway, and I'm going to trust you to eat the number that, and I'm trying to do it because these kids are getting older, and I'm trying to give them and show them trust, because mm-hmm. you can't build up their ability to be trusted without actually trusting them.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to trust them with little things that mm-hmm. if they break my trust, they don't get hurt, but they're,
there's consequences
it's still something,
to those actions.
There's consequences.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so like I'm learning now at 7 and 9 years old mm-hmm. about their ability to be trusted when I give them like, yes, you can have this many, go ahead. And then let them self-police mm-hmm. to see how they handle themselves.
Right.
And then for them to turn around and bite my hand a little bit it's frustrating as a parent, but it's also like they're fucking kids. Like they have to learn that trust is something they need to earn as much as I need to give it to them.
Right. So it's like, now that you have proven that I can't trust you to just, go grab 2 cookies, I will now be going to get those 2 cookies and then hiding the rest of them from you to ensure that doesn't happen again.
Right. Or like you're going to be in trouble. And then you talk them through like why they are in trouble. Like these are just cookies. Like it's not the end of the world.
Right.
But here's what we agreed upon and here's what you did. So yeah. Like cause our kids, like they want to be able to go outside and do stuff and go to school on their own. One of them, goes to school across the street. They want to just be able to go without any supervision.
Want that independence, yeah.
And I would love for that to be a thing when they're of the age that is appropriate.
Right.
But we need to start building that kind of trust now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that extends to my theory about the future for like, how am I going to treat alcohol? And the more complicated thing now, which we haven't even fucking touched on, is marijuana. Now that that's a legal substance in Canada,
mm-hmm.
like that's a conversation that has to happen, right? Because marijuana use mm-hmm. at younger ages is a lot more detrimental to long-term health than alcohol is, right? So like your brain cells, your brain's not fully developed until you're about 25. And when you're smoking weed and stuff, like it kills brain cells. Like when they're old enough, 18 to make their own decisions, right? 18 here, 19 in Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're old enough to legally do the things, it's their choice. But I want to educate them that here's the smart play is to like super underuse marijuana until you're 25. And right. Not that at 25, like fucking go gangbusters, but like, it's all about responsible use, right? And that's the message that they try and push all the time is, know your limits. That's the mm-hmm. poster you see everywhere for gambling. It's the poster you see everywhere for drinking. It's the poster you see everywhere now for cannabis use. Know your limits. It's more complicated than you think. Don't just, I can handle this much because, how many drinks is a drink? 1.5 ounces of liquor is the equivalent alcohol level wise of one beer, 12 ounces, of one glass of wine at 5 ounces. And like, you're trying to tell these to your kids. They're like, oh, I'm going to have to know math. Like, they're just,
I didn't sign up for this shit.
Right. But like, these are the kinds of things you need your children to start thinking about,
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's all about responsibility, and it's being responsible and not doing stupid shit. Like, that's the thing. It's the fine line of, yes, you're going to do stupid shit, but there's certain stupid shit I don't want you to ever have to learn the hard way. Like, that's kind of go back to what you said. Like, there's just certain things and situations that it's just, I would rather you not find out the hard way, which is why we talk about these things. So,
well, and you got those two types of parents too, like when a kid's about to stick their finger in a socket and you got one that's like, no, don't do it. And you got the other one that's like, wait, let's see if they learn anything. Like, there's those two types of, and I think I'm somewhere in the middle where I'm like, whoa, before you do that, I'm going to explain something to you. And if you still feel like doing that afterwards, go fucking nuts. Like, I'm kind of in the middle where it's like, whoa. Let me educate you, then make a decision.
Right. And you can only do so much because, like you said,
that's just it.
Teach your kids so much, and they like you said, sometimes there were things that maybe if they were explained to you a little bit better when you were younger, you probably would have made some different decisions. However, that may be just hindsight 2020, because I remember as an asshole teenager, because I was also an asshole. I still am, just on a different level. I just have responsibilities and I work and pay bills. But I'm a different kind of asshole now. Back then, I was just a moocher that didn't pay anything and just was an asshole to my parents, which is whatever, you're a teenager. Excuse me. I'm going to start coughing. Jesus. See, this is what happens. I forget the whole point of what I was just going to say. This is why I can't do this. Anyway, what I was...
Are you drunk?
No, I still have like another little drink. Like, what is wrong with me?
I couldn't resist the joke.
No, I remember my point.
You remember the point? Okay, good. Because I was just going to move us on if you didn't. All right,
I know. I'm just an absolute idiot. My whole point of that was just to say that there were situations where my, parents, mostly my mom, would have warned me against something, and I was such an asshole that I'd be like, Matt, what do you know? And I would have done it anyway. So there's I remember certain things that I was probably tried to be told to me that I now in hindsight as an adult was like, yeah, you're right. But as a teenager, it's like, I can give you the information, whether or not you choose to use that information, then, that's on you. So it's like, it's kind of like, as a parent, you're like, our kids inevitably just think that we're stupid and don't know anything. So, it's like, even though we've experienced it, it's like, we're telling you this for a reason. We don't want you to make these certain mistakes. And some of them are obviously like, maybe just better learn it on your own. There's just some that aren't. So there's that fine line, but I totally get that, where it's, I probably wouldn't have listened to a whole lot of what my parents said back in the day, from what I recall.
It's true. So. But like, as long as here's the thing, and I do this in my own house because I have stairs that are very steep. And when people are like, where's the washroom? I'm like, first of all, they are up the stairs.
Get your hiking boots on.
They're up the stairs. But second of all, the stairs are very steep. They have little sticky tack on them, but they are kind of slippery. Please do not fall on the stairs. Now that I have explained that to you, I have done my due diligence.
Right,
if
exactly.
you fall, it's not my problem. So at a certain point, like, that's the kind of parent I want to be. I want to be like, here's the information I have for you.
Here are the dangers.
Take it with and do. But I think the problem is that in schools, they don't teach critical thinking. They teach you, here's the facts. Memorize these facts. Regurgitate these facts. Mm-hmm. But they never teach you, like, if this happens, like, let's talk about decision making, right?
Right.
Like, what would you like to have happen? What was the thing you were going to do? And if you do that thing, what do you think will happen as a result?
Right. Just like thinking about consequences of actions.
Right. Yeah. So what is the best case scenario if you do the thing you're about to do? What is the worst case scenario if you do the thing that you're about to do? And what is it you would like to have happen?
Right.
Like,
what's the end goal here?
But people don't teach children that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People teach children the capital of Ontario is blank, right? Fill in the blank. That they don't. It's not about critical thinking. It's about facts and information. Which I'm not saying it's not important, but I think critical thinking is so much more important. How did you arrive at the decision to do the thing you did? Right?
I think
Kids,
like just
because then they can't think it. They're like, I don't know. I just did this thing. It's like when they're swinging something around and it flies off, like they're swinging something around a pencil. It flies off and hits them in the face. And I'm like, well, what did you think was going to happen?
right.
What was the best case scenario? What were you hoping would happen?
A lot of the time they're not even thinking. They just do stuff. Stupid stuff.
And what did you learn, right?
yeah, exactly.
But anyway, we've gone on long enough. I would love to hear from you what you think about alcohol vis-a-vis your children.
Yes.
What is an appropriate age? Is there an appropriate age? Does it depend on the children? If so,
or
what
are
is
your
it?
personal thoughts on it? Like, what do you think? Like, if you have teenagers, what are your thoughts? What have you done? What have you not done? What have you learned?
This is certainly not a black and white issue. It's not a black and white issue.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
Then why don't we just we'll jump right into top tweets.
Let's do
and
it.
We'll end this week, and we have topics for next week to talk about. What I want to talk about next week, and I'll set it up now, is there's this new fad going around, and I don't know if it's a fad or a trend or whatever word makes you least triggered, but it's about dating and consent. Getting consent from your partner to send them certain types of messages. Are you okay with sexting, for example? Are you okay? Like, would you like pictures of my dingus? Like, what? Like, having that consent ahead of time, what a cool concept that is. And how can we teach our children who are teenagers who, again, like, I'm a girl dad. I got 2 girls. You got 2 girls. Like, how do we protect our children? How do we teach boys that just sending a picture of your wiener is totally not cool? Like, things that go out to the internet or anything digital lives forever. It will never go away ever in the history of ever.
It's somewhere. So yeah, exactly.
It exists for all time in the Museum of Information. So
of D-pics.
yeah, your dick pic could be in the fucking archives
somewhere, I'm sure.
First, you know. But anyway, like it's a real issue, and I would really like to discuss that because I think that's like getting consent about the types of messages you expect from your partner is a very cool concept for me, and I really like that. You know, cool. But again, I'm a person who has forget sending a dick pic. I have never taken a picture of my junk because ew. Like, to me, like, that is the least attractive body part of all time. Like, taking a picture of my messed up broken toe, like, that's been reconstructed surgically, that toe is more attractive than a penis, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Fair enough.
I'm just saying, like, there's a conversation that needs to be had, and it's super uncomfortable to have because of the access to information and technology that we have now. So,
right. I agree.
That said, we're going to end this conversation about alcohol and all that kind of stuff with top tweets.
Yeah, let's get into it. So forgive me, I'm going to have to like hold my phone up to my face because I wear glasses and I'm blind if I don't have one. So, so the first one is from, or posted by, okay, sorry, it's at, it's either Shepin's blog or Shepen's blog, but it's, did I put the wrong one? Were you putting one up on the screen?
Yeah, I think.
Oh no, this is the thing. So we have, like, I send them to him in order. Oh, those are old ones.
Yeah,
Sorry, just bear with us again.
Oh, I see what I did. Okay, I got it. It's
all good. This is just for the video part. Just bear with us, audio listeners.
Yeah.
I was just putting them up on the screen. That's all. And they were the ones from last week.
Right. Which, yeah. And it was hard because I try and do it so I don't read them. So I literally just drag and drop. And I forgot to just switch them over. No big deal. But I got it fixed. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right, this one. So it says, 1 minute you're at happy hour on a Tuesday, and the next minute you're saying, not tonight, it's a school night. So it's like, we can go to happy hour on a Tuesday. The kids, it's like, sorry, it's a school night, you can't do that. But we're like out at the bar at happy hour, which is totally fine because we've earned it as adults. That's my thought.
Well, there's also that, yeah. But it's also like, that might also be like context wise. Like 1 minute you're at happy hour, on a Tuesday, and then like, you're old now. So it's like, oh, I can't go drinking tonight. It's a school night. Like you evolve. So,
that is true.
I think that one's double-sided where it's like 1 minute you're hammered Tuesday night, but you're also telling your children, go to bed. It's a school night.
That is true. Agreed.
You can see it both ways.
Totally.
I like that.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree with that. All right. The next one is, oh my God, this is really bad. At Anti-Joke Apple. Alcohol is not the answer. Alcohol is the question. Yes is the answer.
17 to 29-year-old Adam would agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, I think that...
Listen, alcohol is a yes
quote,
for me.
Alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Right.
So,
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, last one. This is an account I found, and I absolutely love it, and so you will probably be hearing more from this one, but it's dad jokes, but it's at Dad Says Jokes, and they're all like really terrible dad jokes, and I love them. So this one just was appropriate for this episode. So it's at Dad Says Jokes. It says, I walked into a pub with my wife. The landlord said, would you like a beer for your wife? I said, that sounds like a fair swap.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah. You're like, beer for my wife? All right.
I'd like to explain something. Take my wife, please. It's got that vibe to it,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I have a much dirtier version of that I will tell you off air.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Anyway, looking forward to more of those because some of them are like really bad. Like they're ones where you're like, oh, it's so terrible, but it's funny. So, I mean,
like,
which is a classic dad joke.
Oh, I feel bad for laughing at that.
Exactly.
Oh, they got me.
Exactly.
Right on. Okay, well, that's it for this week. Okay, we'll be back next week. Don't forget, you can follow us on all the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the YouTube. Obviously, we're here live on Twitch, so you can do that.
Yes.
Twitch.tv/parenting, Facebook.com/parenting. Twitter is at parenting pod. Instagram is at parenting podcast. We made this as hard as we possibly could for you. Really and then YouTube, you're just gonna have to like type it in and search it until we get enough subscriptions. So like and subscribe.
Go subscribe, guys.
While you are on the YouTubes.
Please and thanking you. And also check out the new website, parentingpodcast.com.
Have
links to all of our socials on there. You can listen to our latest episodes, buy some merch if you want, whatever.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
And I think I have a button. Is this the one?
Adam's just pressing buttons now. There it is. If you're watching the video / on Twitch, you can see the website. Right. And if you're listening, go check out the website.
If you are listening, you can. I really like the website the way it kind of worked out, and it's like I can actually like scroll through it. I think if I do it this way, yeah. See?
Oh yeah, perfect.
You can watch the latest episode. That's last week's episode. Next episode is listed when we're gonna do it. You can listen. You can find where to listen if you want to subscribe on any of your favorite platforms. You can stay in the loop by joining our newsletter. You can donate by buying us some beers, which is something I highly recommend doing. Appropriate for today's episode for sure. And we also have a little bit of a merch. We have a shop, which I recommend you check out. And it's the good times. Yeah, it's the good times.
Goes and checks it out. Why not?
Goes and checks it out. PaRANTingPodcast.com. For my cousin and co-host, the Katie Gale / KTG, Kid COVID.
Still.
I am the Wordle champ, Mark Adam. We will see you next week right here on the PaRANTing Podcast.
Bye, friends. See y'all next week. Please come back.
How does this thing work?